Good evening. I am Scott Soroka, the City Communications Manager for the City of Cottage Grove. Welcome to our presentation tonight. We are titling it Economic Development, Where Pride and Prosperity Meet. And joining us live in the council chambers is Mayor Myron Bailey, who is also the president of our city's Economic Development Authority, and Councilmember Steve Dennis, vice president of the EDA and a local business owner. Now, we're going to take questions in a few minutes, so if you have any questions for the mayor or for Councilmember Dennis, please put them in the comments section of the Facebook post that you're watching live right now. But first, we would like to provide a little bit of information and context to kind of frame our discussion to talk about economic development, what it is, how the three main sectors work together to support our city's economy, and also how residents and business owners benefit from economic development. So let's take a look.
Thank you, Scott. So a lot of people do ask me, and I'm sure Councilmember Dennis, what is economic development? And one of the things that the economic development field really talks about in a lot of cases is an acronym called CARE. CARE is investing in the form of new jobs and homes. Attracting is businesses from outside our community. Retain existing businesses and keeping a low vacancy rate. And expand our tax base, of course, and working with our businesses to grow. We care equally in three key areas that drive everything we do: residential, single-family homes, and diversify our housing stock. Adding to the tax base, commercial, and keeping our businesses healthy and happy. One of the things the City of Cottage Grove did is we provided the COVID Small Business Emergency Grant. This grant provided 19 local businesses with money totaling $181,800. We also added new businesses and service providers, creating a variety of opportunities within our community, and of course, adding to our tax base. And of course, we can't forget industrial. We want to continue to grow and expand our business park by providing shovel-ready spots within our business park, adding jobs like we've done over the last many years, and of course, again, adding to our tax base. Then there comes the three-legged stool. These three areas work hand in hand. We must balance this growth equally so we can serve all three sectors. We continue to see steady and exponential growth in all three sectors. Now, my colleague Steve Dennis is going to show you what that success looks like.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And before we get into a look at the numbers in depth, what I'd like to do is take us back a little bit in time.
Perfect.
Actually, back about 7 years. And there's a kind of a fun little story I'd like to share with the community. Back when I was running for City Council, you might recall that you and I sat down and we had a meeting, and I had asked you a very simple question. I said, if you had somebody who wanted to join the team and be dedicated toward economic development, to work as hard as you've been doing, I said, how far could we move it? And your answer was very far.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, what I'd like to do now is share some information here that we're very, very proud of. We continue as a city to outpace the Twin City metro area in economic development. And this is actually happening for a number of key reasons. As a city council, we are very business forward and business friendly. Business forward from the standpoint that we listen to the requests and needs of our community and wants, and then we attend to work towards those. We're business friendly because we've made this a viable place for people to come in and invest. We've worked hard to assemble a like-minded and cooperative city staff that we have received incredible feedback from our investors on. And we're also dedicated to promoting our city to developers in very meaningful ways that bring in things like residential opportunity, commercial, and industrial growth. And this has resulted in an organic tax capacity increase of 49% in 6 years. This equates into our sales and represents the all-time record of measured success in the history of our city. So we'll talk a little bit referencing the three-legged stool. And the very first leg of that chair is going to be residential. And we'll start talking a little bit about single-family home permits. If we give as a frame of reference, back in 2015, we had 60 permits for the year. Last year, in 2019, we had 246, which represents a 410% increase. So far this year, with 3 months left to go, we're sitting at 246 homes. Second is valuation. So in 2015, Cottage Grove's total valuation for single-family homes equaled $20 million. By last year, that valuation grew all the way to $70.8 million, a 354% increase. Looking at our total commercial permits, we need to go back 10 years. You'll see a spike in growth in 2014, another spike in 2016, and then a tremendous amount of sustained success going forward. Our total commercial valuation has sustained a few ups and downs since 2013, but as you can see over the past 6 years, it has grown more than $62 million. Here's a look at a small sample of businesses we've added in the past 2 years. Orange Theory, Planet Fitness, Grove Nutrition, PetSmart, Sushi Cafe, Muddy Cow, and Rustic Floral. And we're very happy to welcome them here. We've also helped to facilitate moves or major remodels or expansions for a number of other companies, including Menards, Los Margaritas, McDonald's, Target, and Oasis Chiropractic. And then last, we'll talk about the final leg of the stool, which is industrial. Our business park is actually booming. We have added nearly 450 new jobs in the past 2 years. In 2018, Modern Automotive made a $2 million investment that included 22 jobs. North Star Sheets was an $8 million investment with 65 jobs. And in this year alone, Airgas, which is a $54 million investment, has provided 35 high-paying jobs. Renewal by Anderson also did an expansion with $35 million investment and 125 new jobs. And Up North Plastics doubled their size, which was a $10.5 million investment and 200 brand new jobs. And we still have room to grow. We have 500 acres available in our industrial business park for development, accessible by state highways and a Class 1 railroad spur for easy transference of incoming materials and outgoing products. A labor pool with more than 470,000 workers within a 15-minute drive. And all of this growth in the three sectors works in concert and in balance with each other to increase our tax base and help us thrive as a city. And so everyone's aware we employ a substantial forecasting process to ensure our growth is managed effectively in a way that fosters opportunity but still delivers the best value to our community. This allows us to provide top-notch public safety, safe and smooth roads, and the best parks and recreation available in the Twin Cities.
Thank you, Steve. So one of the things that you heard about from Steve a little bit ago was how important our staff is. And so what we wanted to do is provide you the opportunity to hear from some of our awesome staff members, first starting out with our Economic Development Director, Christine Costello, followed up by our City Administrator, Jennifer Levitt.
Hello, I'm Christine Costello, the Economic Development Director for the City of Cottage Grove. The City of Cottage Grove understands it is important to be at the forefront of recruitment and attraction. We look to connect with both local and national retailers to promote our city at conferences such as the Minnesota Commercial Area Realtors Expo and the International Consortium of Shopping Centers, RECON, to promote our city. We have made a concerted effort to support our businesses to make sure they can grow within our community. Every year, we sit down with 10 to 15 businesses as part of our business retention and expansion program to hear directly from them on how we can improve. This program has led to many initiatives, including the Facade Improvement Program, offering grants of up to $25,000 to businesses and commercial property owners. Finally, we make sure we have a strong partnership with the Department of Employment and Economic Development, Greater MSP, and utility companies, and many more to make sure our community is ready to recruit business as they look to enter our local market.
I'm City Administrator Jennifer Levitt, and I'd like to take a moment to share details on how our team increases the city's bottom line, allowing us to offer incredible value for taxpayers in the form of services and amenities. As our population grows, our tax base grows, making us more attractive to business and industry. Growth in business and industry helps us further expand our tax base, allowing us to reinvest in things like parks, public works, and public safety by increasing our operating levy without increasing the city's portion of the residential property taxes. And the circle continues. In short, we are proud of what we have to offer residents and potential developers because everyone who lives and works in Cottage Grove benefits from economic development.
And we're back here live at the City Council chambers. Again, we're joined by Mayor Myron Bailey, Councilmember Steve Dennis. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, place them in the Facebook comments section on the Facebook feed that is accompanying the broadcast that you're watching right now. Let's get started, gentlemen. First question, we'll address it to Mayor Bailey. How can the City of Cottage Grove attract more restaurants and attract a greater variety of restaurants?
Well, great question, and it's interesting because there is actually a lot that people can do to help us get more interest, I guess, in Cottage Grove. One is, and it recently happened, I'm going to use White Castle as an example, only because it's kind of fun. There is a group of individuals that are really passionate about wanting White Castle in Cottage Grove. So there's really two things you can do. One is, a letter writing campaign. If people want certain types of restaurants or certain types of things, they can go ahead and solicit their opportunities with their friends and neighbors and such, and reach out to them directly. They can also reach out to us within the city, and I would share with you that in most cases, we have actually met with some of these different end users or the brokers or the people that are actually brokering for these particular restaurants. I will tell you though, one of the big things that restaurants are telling us here in Cottage Grove is, one is they want more daytime population. So one of the things that we need to do is continue to improve our business park and that stay at home, the people that are going to be in town here throughout the day, because we do really well in breakfast time and we do really well at dinner time. But it's at mid time where there's kind of a lull or a gap in there, and they're really asking us to do what we can to step up. And then the other thing is, they want the busiest intersections. They want to be on 80th Street. I talked to two developers today about some restaurants, and that's what they're saying. Where can I find a spot on 80th Street? Well, if anybody knows, 80th Street's pretty tight right now, or Jamaica, which is another one there. So we're trying to figure out some ideas and opportunities for them. And the last thing is our community loves drive-throughs. And most businesses now, especially now with COVID, most businesses are looking for the opportunity for a drive-up or drive-through window. So obviously there's space and all that kind of stuff that has to be done. So we have to work with the different end users to do that. But if you have an idea or know of somebody that wants to open a restaurant, whether it's a national chain or something local, believe me, reach out to one of us. We'd be more than happy to start the discussions and see what we can do to help them.
Absolutely. Councilmember Dennis, anything to add?
Absolutely. One of the things that every investor wants is a return. So over the years being on the council here, I've talked about what we can do to support our local economy and basically build it one sale at a time. And so what it really comes down to is that we make a conscious choice as consumers to decide where and how we're going to spend that money. When we keep that money here, that helps the businesses to be successful. There's very rarely a time when a business closes when their sales are outstanding. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is something that a lot of people don't know unless you're inside the tight circles of commercial development. Many of these organizations have a number of key measurements that they look for. They want to know, what is the population density? What is the level of education in the community, the median income? They want to have, for example, we talk about restrictive covenants and easements. There's all kinds of things that maybe a certain investor wants to be next to A, B, or C companies because they draw a synergy. So there's a lot that goes into that. And ultimately, what we try to do is we try to find the right key that fits the lock. And that's the challenge out there. And so many of them, like the mayor said, they want to be within, say, a certain area relative to a heavy trafficked roadway, maybe a quarter mile or something along those lines. So we've been able to learn about this and really become experts at the city level by going out and networking with these different companies. And that's all part, it's not just promoting the city, but it's also learning and bringing things back here that we can plug in to be successful.
Sure. And I think that leads us to a couple of segues. First question, which you may have heard a few times, Mayor Bailey. What happened to the pizza ranch that was slated to come to town? Somebody just asked us on Facebook.
Oh, there you go. So thanks for that question. It's the same question that I'm asking is when. I guess what I'll share with the public is we don't know yet is probably what the plan is. But I will share with you the property that Pizza Ranch has purchased. So there is a purchase price. They paid the money. Actually, they paid it to the city because it was a city lot for that particular location, which for those that may be interested to know, it's right next to Muddy Cow by Oakwood Park. What we did find out after the fact, and part of this all happened because of COVID, to be honest with you, prices went up. We were told that Pizza Ranch went out to the market to, do construction and do the bids for construction. Some of their bids came in like $1 million+ over what they anticipated it to be. And so they came back to us. We as a city even went back to them and said, okay, what can we do to help you with this process? So as of this immediate moment, do I think Pizza Ranch is coming to Cottage Grove? At some point, the answer is yes. Will it be in that one spot there? I don't think so. And I'm breaking news to you. And the only reason I'm saying that is we're not entirely certain because of the cost for them to actually have to spend over $1 million. So what may end up happening in the future with them is maybe them finding a place in line or somewhere else in the community, because I know for a fact, after talking to the owner of the location of the franchise, he absolutely wants to be here in Cottage Grove, and sooner the better. Even under the COVID situation, it's just so expensive to build right now, brick and mortars. That's what's driving the issue right now.
Sure. Now, Mayor, you mentioned COVID. One of our Facebook viewers is asking about the convention that we normally attend in Las Vegas to attract some of these businesses nationally. What is in store for that, or is there anything you can tell us about that, Councilmember Dennis, as we move forward or look forward?
Well, so the first thing, thank you, Scott. I want people to be assured that just because we're in a challenging and difficult time does not mean that we stop working. I mean, we continue with a very high level of dedication, and we listen to the community. We hear people asking for certain types of businesses, and believe me, we do go out of our way to try to track them. But again, it comes down to the measurements, and are we a community that they want to come into? Okay, so that's always going to be a really big thing. Now, one thing I'd like to do just to put a little bit of additional comment on the last question was, we many times, and every member of the city council, Dave Thiede, Justin Olson, Lorraine Mills, and of course us, are very dedicated and excited to see things come to town along with our staff. Many times, we hear of something, we want to share that information with people, but because of the way that these things are handled, there are non-disclosure agreements and other instruments that are put into play that we really can't say a whole lot about it. What we usually try to do is wait until they have pulled an actual permit, because once a permit is pulled, then that goes out into the public realm. So in this particular case here, as Amir indicated, we were ready, set, go, and all of a sudden, and this can happen, and it's a really unfortunate thing. Things can fall apart in the last second. I mean, we'd be on the 1 yard line with 2 seconds to go in the game. We need a touchdown because we're down by 5, and guess what? Something takes place, and we just don't get across the goal line. And a lot of times, these investors, they might not just be looking at us. They might be looking at multiple communities upon which they're seeing, hey, where can we get the best opportunity or the best deal, whatever that might be. So it's always a challenge, but I want people to know very sincerely that we're here, all of us, and we're swinging the bat for the bleachers every single day.
Yeah, Scott, I'm just going to add a little bit into that. It kind of gets into what Councilmember Dennis said. There is a lot of information that I know, and a lot of council members, obviously staff, probably even know some cases before I do, though I do have a good relationship with a lot of the developers. You mentioned the Pizza Ranch situation. The only time we started really talking truly about Pizza Ranch was once they actually came in to purchase the property, because it's public knowledge. I'm going to use another one as a classic example that we hear a lot of people asking about in Cottage Grove, and that's Quick Trip. People want a Quick Trip, believe me, I know that. And I would like to see a Quick Trip here too. I hear how many people go to Hastings to that one and so on. Quick Trip actually had a site plan review and confirmation, the city approved it, on the corner of Hadley or 80th Street and Hadley, right over there on the other side of the highway. And for reasons that were beyond us, it wasn't anything the city could do. Matter of fact, we even tried to do things behind the scenes between the owner of the mall there and the development and the tenants in the mall. They were not able to get that deal done. And so it's the things like that, where that was even in the paper, the diagram at the time we had that paper, the bulletin, it was out there. So it's unfortunate, it's a challenge, it's disappointing, but again, do I think that we'll have an opportunity to see a Quick Trip in town here? Yes. Will we have a pizza ranch in town here? Yes. It's just a matter of where.
Sure, absolutely. And I think as Vikings fans, we can appreciate the goal line analogy.
Yeah, there you go.
Councilmember Dennis, do you want to add something real quick?
We take a look at any of the vacant spaces that are in the community. And we are aware that, we've got a couple malls that have some room. And it doesn't matter which side of the community it's on, we want to see these spaces be filled. But what we can control, and this is an important aspect for the community to know and understand, when it comes to us, we do try to help market, we do try to put a good spin on and do everything we can to help connect people. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, do you have a willing seller and a willing buyer? And so those are private sector matters that the city can only go so far into it. We control things like zoning and licensure. And that really covers the limit as far as what we can or can't do. So if we have a space, let's say, that's been open for a while, we put materials together, we market that, they're out on our website, developers can see that. Really what has to happen is we have to have somebody that wants to come to town, and then we have to be able to, get that owner of that property or that leasing agent to work with them to put something together. So really, there are some limitations, some pretty substantial ones in terms of what we can actually do.
Now, this came in from a Facebook viewer. It's not in the form of a question, but I will mention it anyway because they, quote, love Panera Bread. So I'll just throw that out there and make sure that everybody hears that viewpoint, and we can maybe discuss further in a little bit.
God, I'll make my plug. So does my wife.
Okay.
And I'm sure many others in this community. And is Panera interested in Cottage Grove? We know for a fact from being out at the convention in Vegas. They want to be in Cottage Grove. Again, it's the same thing we've been talking about. They need a certain spot with a drive-through, a certain size, the whole 9 yards. And so believe me, we're working with some redevelopment opportunities as well as some existing sites around the community to meet their needs.
Sure. This is a good question from one of our viewers. How do we get more development on the south side of Highway 61? I'll start with you, Councilmember Dennis.
Well, what kind of development, I guess, are we looking for? Right now, we have a tremendous amount of housing development that's going in there. And generally, what you find is that when you have rooftops, as it's referred to in our industry, generally you'll find that you'll want some commercial or some retail support to go along with that. So we would have to take a look and see exactly where and what we could do and take a look at the zoning. And I know we did work on our 2040 comprehensive plan, so that kind of guides the land usage as far as going forward in time. But, one of the things I think we all try to do is keep a very open mind and take a look. And again, knowing that people might want certain opportunities there, if there's a way we can support it, we definitely would look at doing that.
Sure. Another great question that we just got from Facebook. Any consideration to building a kind of town square style development? Great. I know just working for the city that we've had some discussions. I'll start with you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Mayor.
So one of the visions that we've had and goals and objectives of this council has been to create some of that townhome or that downtown feel. Yeah. Cottage Grove has never had that opportunity, to be quite honest with you. We're separated by a highway. People talk about Red Wing, which the highway goes through, in essence, Red Wing. Hastings is to the left, right? Beautiful downtowns. And I like to look at us, and I know Councilmember Dennis can share my passion because I've talked about it for years. For those of you that are familiar with Maple Grove created their own downtown. And they're a new community. They didn't have a downtown either. So what we are looking at is we're looking at creating something like that at what we're calling the Shops at Cottage View. The Shops at Cottage View area is about 73 acres all in. It'll be a mixed use kind of situation that could have everything from a movie theater to possibly, if the voters later next year or so decide on a referendum, a community center with a water aquatics facility, those kind of things. We have developers we're talking to right now about some housing, higher density housing, which one of the big things we've heard from our investors, if you will, our retail components, is they really want to be surrounded by higher density housing. So you usually have your core retail and you flank it with higher density housing and then other housing out from that. So we believe, based on the designs that we've worked on, that the Shops at Cottage View can be that opportunity for us. And That's kind of why when we've talked about our new access into the Ravine Park, which is gorgeous, having a bridge either go over or under a pedestrian that would come from the new community center area, and then interconnect within this new development that would also connect to the rest of Cottage Grove. So that is our goal for that particular site. And I think if they're talking south, Cottage Grove kind of is south, which is towards Hastings. North is, up more towards Newport. West is the west side of, or Thompson Grove side of the town, and then the western or the eastern portion is where the majority of our development is right now. But it's changing. It is changing.
We've got a couple of COVID-related questions. One of the things that we see in the media is stores and restaurants, they continue to close. First question for you, Councilmember Dennis, what's the vacancy rate look like here in the city of Cottage Grove, and how does it maybe compare to the rest of the metro?
Okay, well, that's a great question, Scott. And if you examine us compared to the rest of the metro, we are anywhere between 3 to 3.5 points better and below the measurement of vacancy spaces that are available. So, in the last 6 years, I can tell you when I joined in on the team and having come out of the Great Recession and having been in kind of a unfortunate position. We've come a tremendous way. Okay. We actually have our current vacancy rate for retail space down about 5.7%. Now, what's interesting is that if folks take the time to go out, or those that are involved, again, in commercial development, 6% is really indicated as ideal. And the reason for that is that it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, so that if we have somebody that wants to come to town, we have an opportunity for them to come in. Sure. On the other end of it, if you have existing investors that, maybe someone wants a larger or a smaller footprint, what this does is this gives us an opportunity to keep them here. So very quickly, I'm going to mention that we have a program that we use here as part of our economic development programming. It's business retention and expansion. And so I always take it that the business retention piece is put first. It's great to add new things, but what we don't want to do, if you ever hear that saying, take a step forward and take a step or two back, we try not to take steps backward if we can help it. So being able to retain those companies here, because we've already put the work in, and in good faith, they've already invested in our community, so we want to see them be successful and keep them here and continue to kind of grow our mythical business through the top end, which is our additional sales coming in. That adds to the tax base, which creates a better outcome for our tax capacity and also the tax per capita. And so when you take a look at these things and how they factor to our bottom line, for the last couple years, and again for our budget coming up, we are actually going to be seeing over 80% of all of the residential properties in Cottage Grove either paying at or slightly less than what they did the year before. Okay. And that's a fantastic thing. So we're sitting in a really good position. I know that we had one company close because they made a corporate decision. That was one of the clinics in town, and they closed a whole bunch of them across the playing field. Second, we had a smaller business that decided to revert to online sales because they felt that was a better business model for them. But when you take a look back at the work we did through the EDA and the City Council to provide some business assistance programming, I'm going to knock on the granite here that we've been very lucky, and we haven't lost anybody else. And I think that's a fantastic thing, especially when you look at the effects of COVID, when you look at some of the other issues that have taken place in the communities, and we know things that happened back in May. We're sitting in a really, really good spot right now, and we can continue to work along the lines of seeing more things come.
Sure.
Yeah, and can I just jump in real quick? So we talked about the business subsidy, or the program that we did for our 19 businesses during COVID.
Yeah.
We also waived fees. If for a while there, restaurants were closed, so obviously they have liquor licenses, and we refunded them their money for the fact that they were closed. Chiropractic or massage places, all of them that had some type of a permit or paid us a license fee, we refunded those because we felt anything we could do as a city to help support them during this tough time was going to be a benefit to them. And so that's why I was pretty proud of the team. I mean, we literally all came together and said, okay, what can we do? And to be perfectly honest and blunt with the public, all of the stuff that we did with this business subsidy program and that, we did without knowing that there was any COVID-related benefit coming from the federal government or the state. We took it upon ourselves in the city of Cottage Grove and our Economic Development Authority and said, we have to do this. We want to save our businesses here in Cottage Grove. And so in doing that, I believe, again, I'll knock on wood since you have granite, I have wood, but the fact is that, hopefully we'll be able to keep everybody around. And we do check, I mean, I know you and I do, literally, check with various businesses in town to make sure that they're doing okay. And if there's anything we can do to support them, we're there for them.
On top of that, we were the only city in Washington County to put that assistance out for our businesses. That money that we used for it came from the Economic Development Trust Fund, which is not taxpayer derived. So it's residential taxpayers are not funding that. Yeah. This is something that comes in the form of business donations that's used to build a program. Everything from starter or seed money to reinforcement money to being any use that, we've got our legalities that we have to follow, of course. But the thing is, it was the right time to do that. And I think the results really speak for themselves. Absolutely. Because we haven't lost anybody. And I just want to throw this in too, because we go through and we do our budget process. We do it for a 2-year time frame. So we try to forecast and we try to make sure that we're running the best program to the bottom line for the folks that live here and invest through everything that we do. And so being a small business owner and somebody who is intrinsically hands-on with money, my money, and being an investor in other ways too, I look at how we run the program and I look at the awards that we've received for how we do things here. And I can tell people with a very, very clear conscience that we run a great program as far as how we orchestrate everything to the bottom line to give the best value and service to our community.
And we're getting a lot of COVID-19 questions, which is completely understandable. Yeah. And so here's an interesting question that we got from a Facebook viewer. Since Strawberry Festival is not happening, what else is the city doing to bring visitors to town? I'll let you start, Mayor Bailey.
Great question. Well, at this point, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is more related to athletics, if you will, in some cases. Like, for example, I do know our ice arena is still working on how you can manage through tournaments. Unfortunately, fortunately, we can still run tournaments, but there's a limit of the capacity of the number of people that can show up and actually be spectators in the ice arena. Okay. Same thing with any of the sporting events. When it comes to, for example, the holiday train, I don't know if everybody is aware of it, but the holiday train is not going to be in person this year. It is going to be a virtual concert and such online. It seems like that's what we all have to do right now. So it is a challenge for us to keep people motivated and to continue to bring people into town. So to be frank with you, it's been real tough. It isn't even just Strawberry Fest. I mean, the tournaments have to do it. We did have a large, fairly significant softball tournament, a national softball tournament. Sure. And it's probably about a month ago, we did have a Frisbee tournament at Oakwood Park. Yeah. Those things were still going on. Our golf course is still doing record amounts of rounds of golf and tournaments. Yeah. So those people that are going to those events are still staying in town and shopping and eating. So at this point, we're looking forward to what can we do next year as we finally, hopefully, can get out of the tightness of what's going on with COVID.
Sure. I mean, I don't know to Councilmember Dennis.
Yeah,
and I do have one additional piece to add to that. We, and again, this is something that came from us going to Las Vegas, hearing from folks that are involved with hotel chains. And they said, do you guys have a lodging tax? Now, usually when we hear the word tax, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. In this case, it is something that the businesses are seeking. And in essence, what the program they want to have is like a 3% user fee that would be attached to the bill people to stay in the hotel. That money then gets collected, and what we have done is we have formed a brand-new Convention and Visitors Bureau, which I happen to sit as chair of that board. Mr. Wolf, who's over on the side, is involved in that with us as well. And so what we're going to be doing, we're ramping this thing up. Speaking of next year, we're ramping it up, so we're putting in all the foundations and the structure right now so that we can take that money that comes out of that user fee and be able to apply that into things like direct marketing, things like sponsoring tournaments or events, doing advertising pieces, all things which are designed to draw awareness and put the city of Cottage Grove on the map. So this will be something in the cities that have it, it's successful. We did our research and our due diligence on it and found that it was a great thing to do. So again, it's just another piece. It comes out of the economic development realm because we learned about that in Vegas when we were networking.
Which, like you said, Councilmember, or I almost said Councilmember Olson. Councilmember Olson is actually with you on the chamber or the what are we talking? Visitors
Yeah.
to the Cottage Grove Convention. Boy, I had my mind kind of went out there. But what I was going to share though, just from the general public, what we've been doing though also as a city is helping businesses that are looking at doing things in our community to meet the guidelines of COVID. So, for example, back in August, we worked with Hy-Vee as an example when they had their food truck event that they had in their parking lot. Currently, right now, Zivic's Haunted Experience is going down here in Cottage Grove, and that is hugely popular. And we worked with them so that they could continue to do this event. They just are doing it differently this year to meet the COVID guidelines of how many people and wearing masks and so on. So whenever we can get into these situations where we can do that, where it makes sense for us to, and a business to continue to operate in a safe way, but still in a good way, we're here to do it. I mean, we want to help them do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And, one of the things that you guys were talking about is the way we change our lives based on the pandemic and around
Yes.
COVID-19. And one of our viewers just writes to us, I love the parks in Cottage Grove. They've been quite busy during times of COVID, which is a good thing because we have a lot of amenities for folks to enjoy. So we're running out of time, but I'm going to ask one more question of both of you.
All right.
And this is one that I think staff members hear quite often. Often employers in Cottage Grove will ask, what is the city doing to ensure we have housing available that is affordable to young workers and young families? I'll start with you, Mayor.
All right, sounds good, thank you. So basically what we're doing is we have actually as part of our comprehensive plan, is we have truly designated certain areas of our community to be more higher density type housing. It is interesting, I literally did talk to a developer earlier today that's talking about how things have started to change a little bit. We've heard from up to this point where everybody wants properties with smaller yards, and they just want the amenities in their homes. Well, now that since COVID hit, there's some changes in that, but we are still hearing from our retailers and our business park businesses that, and frankly, family members that want to stay in Cottage Grove, but they don't have that ability because it's either there isn't something affordable or there isn't even something that's market rate. And so I can share with the public, I've seen messages out on Facebook every once in a while, that right along 80th Street, where the old City Hall used to be in the Public Safety Department, that is going to be a new apartment building, market rate, called the Grove 80. Apartments, and that is a full amenity type situation. It's going to be a gorgeous building. They've done a lot of developments around the Twin Cities area, and then we are also working with other types of developers to come to town with, I'll call it more affordable. And typically, what's a challenge is people have different visions or thoughts of what is affordable housing. Unfortunately, there's a stereotype, if you will, with that. Affordable doesn't mean low income. Affordable really means anybody should be able to get into an apartment or get into a place to live. And so when you talk about high density housing, we may work with developers through tax increment financing opportunities, some different funding mechanisms, helping them purchase land. Again, like Councilmember Dennis mentioned earlier, teaming them up with different types of land use or land owners to make that happen. At the same time, I also wanted to share, though, one of the things that we did a few years ago is a lot of our seniors here in Cottage Grove, they were telling us they wanted to stay in Cottage Grove but didn't have a place to stay. And so they were staying in their homes, which typically, over the years, those homes are what I'll call starter homes, cheaper on the lower end in cost or price. And so what we did is we literally did go out to market and we said, look, we need Presbyterian Homes came to town and they provided a opportunity there. We had the Legends in Cottage Grove, which opened up, and there's waiting lists to get into these places. And as everybody knows, Presbyterian Homes, or North Square as we call it, has both assisted and unassisted living and also some active senior apartments and such there now. They've kind of expanded their campus. And what that's done is it's allowed some of those homes, or those, first of all, those seniors get to stay in Cottage Grove, which they wanted to. And back when we could take hugs, when we went to some of these events.
Remember those days?
Yes, yeah. Some of these seniors would come up to me and give me a hug and say, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and thank you, City. I wanted to stay here to be close to my friends and my family. And now I can do that because they're staying in one of those places. And the good news is their house sold. And then their house sold for a good value, and a new homeowner, starting homeowner, gets to come to town in a more affordable home. So we want the whole array in Cottage Grove. We don't just want $500 or $1 million homes. They're important. We want to meet all the demands out there, but in this particular case, we need to do what I like to call life cycle, full life cycle housing.
Sure. Councilmember Dennis.
Well, I'll just add, first off, a lot of great information that you just shared on the topic. You know, there are differences, and the mayor is correct. It's hard sometimes for people to know, what does subsidized mean? What does workforce housing mean? What does market rate mean? So if we just cover that very quickly as a learning piece, if we have a subsidized process, we might use as an example like a tax increment finance or some other method to kind of do a buy down and make it more affordable for the company to come in. Okay. And then what ends up happening is they pass that on in return of a lower rate of living. Workforce housing generally will be designed for people that meet a certain measurement of financial income. Now, it's not necessarily a subsidized thing, but it might be capped at a certain dollar amount. So you might find teachers, you might find police officers, or other folks that are involved in trades that might, qualify for that type of a housing opportunity. And then last is the market rate, and that's the free market, folks. That's what the market will bear. And so if they put in a nice home that's got the granite counters and the stainless steel on the appliances, you might pay a little bit more for that, right? And so within the scope of those, when we really talk about measuring and getting a lower cost factor, high density really plays into that. Because if you think about it, if you put up an apartment complex, you can have more people living in a smaller area. And what ends up happening is you divide those numbers down and you get a lower cost factor. So high density really is something that, and we've been working hard for years to try to get something in. We do have the one opportunity coming now, which is going to really make a difference here for the community. We're hoping it's going to jumpstart so that we can get some more additional high density coming in as well.
Absolutely.
So those are things that can be of help for us.
All right, gentlemen, I know you guys could probably talk on these topics for hours, if not days, but want to open it up for a few closing remarks, if you could.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, by the way, for moderating, Scott, and thank you to the public for sharing some great questions on Facebook. And I hope for those of you who may know me or Councilmember Dennis or our city, I am very open to answering questions, and if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know the answer. But I'm extremely passionate about this community. I live and breathe, and I suppose I could say bleed Cottage Grove. As I mentioned earlier today, I literally do. When I'm in my car between my other real job, other than being mayor, I'm making phone calls to different developers, investors, and that to talk to them about, Cottage Grove or what's going on here, what I can do to team up this business or this group with this landowner and so on and so forth, making sure that they all want to actually truly want to meet. Yeah. But we are going to have some pretty amazing times. And I thank everybody for handling and working through this COVID situation. It's been a very difficult year on that. But at the same time, we are going to have a record year in housing starts. So we still have commercial and businesses that are opening up in Cottage Grove, even now. We already know for a fact that we have a lot of pent-up opportunity coming into 2021. So this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. So I think, thinking back to when we were in the Great Recession, we used that time to get all of our ducks in a row, make sure that all of our ordinances were in place, that we were providing business-friendly opportunities to our community, talking to our citizens through the My Future Cottage Grove process. What do you want? What do you need? And then listening to them and then coming forward with, like we're going to do hopefully next year with the referendum for a community center and a water park. So we're listening. I just want to share that with you. But if you have any questions or comments, either you can leave them out on the city's Facebook page. We'll try to respond to them, or you can reach out to one of us. And as you probably know, if you know me, I will answer and I will talk to you about it. So thank you. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Dennis.
Well, thank you, Scott. And first off, I want to say thank you to you and to our great staff team here who has helped to do a lot of work here behind the scenes. We are the face of the business, but we're only as good as those people that support us. And I would want the community to know how many great individuals we have on our staff. Many of the folks who happen to live here as residents and taxpayers as well. So the team is engaged. The team is vested and invested, if you will, in ensuring that we're doing the absolute best here that we can on behalf of our community, not just at this time, but all the time. And so one of the reasons that I sought to bring this forum together tonight is that I wanted to provide an opportunity for folks to learn. You can never learn too much, right? And learn a little bit about what we do and what has led us to $1 billion worth of success in economic development. These are the all-time records for our community. And it's something that we have been working on, but yet we do it in a way that it's staged, so that we're planning the growth and we're making sure that we can keep a fair relative cost factor to run the city's business, but keep the level of quality high to the level that people have come to expect out of us. That's part of being happy. That's part of having pride in the community that you live. So I'm very happy. It's an honor for me to serve, to bring what I learned about life and business into the process and work with a number of great people that we have here. And so every day is a great opportunity for me to be part of this. So thank you. And I also want to say thank you to all of our friends at SWCTC for their great work.
I was going to make that plug. Sorry that we missed you guys there for a minute. It's going to be a last-minute plug. You guys are awesome.
So those guys make us look awfully good and do a great job, not just on things like this, but all kinds of informative programming here for the community. And we're very fortunate to have those. So have them here with us. So my ending statement is this. We're dedicated. The level of dedication, the level of commitment, it never changes. Every day, you get our very best. And we do that as an honor to the service for the people of the community here that we work on behalf of. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Scott, can I make one more quick plug?
Please do.
I guess being the mayor, I get to do that, right?
Absolutely.
I made a comment earlier today out on Facebook that join us tonight to hear some announcements. And by the way, the announcement about what's going on with Pizza Ranch was not the big announcement.
Okay.
The big announcement is this that I wanted to share with the public. As you can see it here, today launched the new Cottage Grove Journal, our local newspaper. And just so the public is aware, at least for the month of October, the newspaper is free. And it is currently at, I believe they told me, Cub Foods, Hy-Vee, the holidays that are on Hinton and 70th, and Almar out by Dennis Brothers Liquors. And then it's also like at Walgreens and some of the other places in town. They are still working on getting all the locations situated. But here's the fun thing. If you want a newspaper, you can go into one of those locations and pick one up for free. Later, when they get further into November, it'll be $1 per paper, or you can have it mailed to your home. So this will be another option for you. So we're excited. Once again, one of the things, speaking of seniors before, and it's not just seniors, but people are really disconnected from when you only have a St. Paul or Minneapolis paper, you don't have our own local paper. So when this gentleman reached out to me a few months back and said, hey, what do you think about us doing that in Cottage Grove? I'm like, yes, I mean, absolutely, let's do it. And so I just want to mention this is available now. Some great articles in here, both on our local schools, information about what's happening in our community. Obviously, we had a big fire not that long ago that our fire department did a great job with. And so if you have any questions, you can also check out their Facebook page, or obviously all the information is in their paper. So that was my shameless plug at the very end here for them, but we're excited to have another business in town.
Absolutely. On behalf of Mayor Bailey and Councilmember Dennis, we'd like to thank you for joining us for this special presentation. Have a good night.